The night Danny scored 135 points, it was all my idea. Danny had nothing to do with it. He and the team learned about it 5 minutes before we walked on the court.
The little children, they have heard the legend of Danny Heater, and often when a stranger comes into the school, they'll say, "Are you Mr. Heater? Are you Mr. Heater?" And I hope the legend never dies. I hope it never dies.
I've always been kind of embarrassed about the story or trying to tell it because I've always never liked to talk about myself. Yeah, I was born in a little town called Burnsville, West Virginia, and it had about 500 people. We lived there till I was about probably in second grade.
I am Dolores Heater Respus, and I'm Danny's older and best loved sister. Growing up in Burnsville was rather a unique situation, I think, especially in comparison to the way kids grow up today.
The best part about the town was that we didn't worry about drugs. Uh, each of us had about 10 mothers because all of our friends' mothers was our mothers too.
It was a good place to grow up. Nobody had any money, and I think that's one of the neat things. We were kind of equal because everybody was as poor as everybody else.
We were all very poor, but it was just financially. We had a lot of love in our family, and everybody was poor there, so we didn't realize we were poor. My grandfather always had about 2 or 3 gardens, and that's how we made it through the winter, but eating the vegetables and canning. And
my dad was a coal miner. He'd worked most of his life in the coal mines, and my mother was a housewife. My mother's family were raised here in Burnsville. My dad on a farm just outside of Burnsville.
My father was away so much, and then he went back into the mines. I guess I was about 8 years old, and at that time, you had the union mines and then the non-union mines, and the non-union mines, the safety was the biggest thing. That they didn't care. I mean, if you didn't want to work for them, they'd get somebody else that would. And when I was about 8 years old, my father was trapped. Him and 2 other people were trapped in a cave-in. And by the time they got to him, the 2 other gentlemen were dead, and my father was unconscious.
Of course, when you're a coal miner, the work is off and on. Dad was out on strike a lot. He in fact got ill. He got mine gas and was told not to go back in the mines. He's worked several years in construction, but eventually he went back to the mines because it was the skill he had and the way he could earn the most money.
It finally got to the point he wasn't making any money. We were starving to death, so against his advice and my mom's advice, he went back underground and started mining again, and ended up with black lung, which finally killed him.
Well, Danny had played basketball from the time he was in about the 5th grade. He didn't actually play. He sat on the bench.
I started playing in the 5th grade because just in a PE class, they just had us shooting around, and so one of the teachers decided to start a 5th and 6th grade team and asked me to try out.
And he was growing so fast, he would grow out of his gym shoes. And at that time, the parents provided all of the outfits for their kids. And my mom said, she wouldn't care so much about buying Danny other but gym shoes if he ever wore the others, but they were never even scuffed.
Of course, I didn't have any shoes. I didn't have any regular gym shorts. All I had was cut off shorts that were too short for me the year before. And one of my biggest memories of that was I was driving the ball down the floor, and the guy went to swipe it away and missed it and hit my pants. And of course, the button flew off and my pants flew down around my ankles.
My name is Jack Stalnaker. I was born in Braxton County. I attended a one-room school, and from there I moved to Burnsville High School.
I am Laura Crutchville. I'm generally known as Lauraville Crutchville. My people came from the South, and most Southern girls have a double name. I went to the grade school here, 8 years, and 4 years high school, and then I went to college. I returned here and taught in Burnsville High School 36 years. I was an English teacher and a librarian.
From Burnsville, I went to Fairmont State College and signed a contract to go to Baltimore to coach and teach. But over the summer, my father was taken to the hospital and was going to be incapacitated for 3 or 4 months. So I broke my contract, and as luck would have it, I was able to get an assistant job as a football and basketball coach, and went back to Burnsville.
I went to the grade school here, 8 years, and 4 years high school, and then I went to college. I returned here and taught in Burnsville High School 36 years. I was an English teacher and a librarian.
I didn't have Danny as a student, only in PE, and in the old days, we were so small, and you only had one person teaching boy and girl PE, that if a kid was in sports, he could take a study hall instead of participating in physical education.
Danny grew up in the town. He came to school. I always liked the boy, even when he was very young. If he saw me, he would throw up his hand. He always recognized me passing on his way to school.
Yes, I did. His dad was an unemployed coal miner. His mother, a housewife, and really nice people. Very supportive of Danny and very proud of every game that we could win and that Danny could look well.
And I think in the 7th is when I really started to play a lot, and really was the love of my life at that time. And of course, my mom thought that there's only 2 basketball players in the world, me and Jerry West, and I'm not sure which one she liked the best to this day. But she was really into basketball. She never missed any of my games at home.
But
of course.
the year I was a senior, the high school coach was talking to me, and he said, "I'm going to start your brother on the varsity team next year." Danny was in the 8th grade that year, would be a freshman the next year. And freshmen just didn't make the varsity team. And I said, "Really?" And he said, "That boy has the best hands I've ever seen on any basketball player." And so finally, you know, I regained consciousness and began to watch him and realized that he was.
Curiously, Danny was a poor kid, and he liked to play basketball, and it had been his whole life. And as I said earlier, it had snowed, and we'd been out of school. Well, one of the locals who was big in basketball came to me and said, "Danny is at his house shooting hook shots at a peach basket by an house. You better go up there and tell him to quit," because Danny was a frail kid at that time. He had broken both wrists running into the wall in that old gym as a freshman. So I didn't go tell him. You know, I figured that he'd go inside if he got cold. And
My brother had Danny down in elementary, and he had told me what a wonderful basketball player he could become. In fact, excuse me, he told me that Danny had the fastest hands that he had ever seen.